What is going on, YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we have episode 23. And my lord, we got a little bit to talk about. A lot is going on, obviously, in the sports world, and in terms, especially in the NFL world. The combine is currently going on as we speak. It is Friday here, so currently we have, I believe it's the D linemen that are going today. Yeah, D
Yeah.
linemen and linebackers. And then obviously quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs are tomorrow. And then to end it all on Sunday, it is the offensive linemen. So a lot to talk about, and obviously a lot more things going on with the Cavs, and even some spring training stuff as well. So Andrew, how are you feeling this afternoon, my friend?
Oh, dude, I'm feeling good, man. We got some combine going on. Things are looking up. Football is getting back up and running again. We got baseball coming up, so things are looking up, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I've said it. I did say this last week, and I will keep saying it again. But this is my favorite time of the year. This
Mm-hmm.
is when stuff like this is when for us, I think, in the media or just people that enjoy this part of the media aspect of sports. This is the most fun time. We are a mere 2 weeks away from the tampering period. We have
Mm-hmm.
obviously the combine going on, and then about a month or so, after that, NFL draft time. uh, Obviously we have baseball going. Basketball is about to be in its prime. We are now in March, which means one thing: March Madness. That
Absolutely.
is another thing too. So we can also talk about a little bit of Ohio State here. At some point, because since they've gotten rid of their coach, they've been doing a lot better. I think they lost last night, but um, they are doing a lot better. Actually, I want to check on that. I want to
That's what I was doing. I was checking on it just to see where we're
because
at.
I didn't watch it, but I knew they were playing Nebraska, and I knew that was gonna be like a thing. So
They
let
beat
me.
Nebraska
Did we beat Nebraska? Let's
by
effing
9.
go. So
By
yeah,
9.
so we were so the last time I saw it, we were down. Oh my god, because Jamison Battle had 32 last night.
Yeah.
Holy,
Jameson Battle's
woo!
killing it, dude. He is balling.
Yeah,
They
so
got
I mean,
Michigan in 2 days.
since they've gotten rid of their head coach, he has done a lot better. So clearly that was a problem child for Ohio State. So that's good to see that they're starting to do good. But yeah, March Madness is coming. Obviously, baseball is well on its way. So we have a lot, but we are going to start today with some combine news. Obviously, I just said the lineup for this weekend. Um, what are some players that you're watching out for in terms of the Cavs or the Cavs? God, I need sleep, guys. The Browns, and even just the league in general, because this draft's pretty stacked.
It is. I mean, a lot of the guys that I'm watching, at least league wise, is for you know where like Caleb Williams is gonna go. A lot of the quarterbacks because this is now a quarterback heavy draft again because you got Bo Nix, Drake May, Caleb Williams, so you got a lot of decent quarterbacks going in this draft. Um, for the Browns, there's not it's hard to say anyone in particular because again, we still have a late pick, we still have a second, third, so there's not really many eye popping guys that I'm seeing as of right now
Right.
because again, it's not something that we really have to worry about because again, we don't have a first round draft pick until next season, so
Yeah.
it's kind of just I sit and enjoy and watch the combine because again, a lot of these guys you see at the combine are more or less first round guys. A lot of these guys are not getting to the Browns in the second round. So, but overall, I'm watching the quarterbacks. I'm watching a lot of these, DBs and running backs, and some of the more base skill positions, obviously, because it's exciting to see what. And I mean, the D line class is I think stacked as well. I think this is
Yeah.
a pretty stacked D line class. So there's a lot going on, but for the Browns in particular, there's not really anyone I'm watching because again, it's hard to pick and choose because a lot like I said, a lot of these guys are not second round dudes that we're watching. A lot of these guys are first rounders, and if we
Right.
do land a couple of these or these guys in the second round, then it'd be a godsend from heaven. But
Oh yeah.
but more or less, I'm looking. If I do say for the Browns, I'm looking at more of basically to the D lineman today and such because I think we're always looking to expand that D line and looking at them being big and healthy. And, we always want Miles, and especially now with Darius Smith, who most likely we probably can resign and probably
Hmm.
should resign. It'd be great to have a couple other guys paired with both of them and someone especially younger too. And obviously, I think I would take a look at the offensive line class too, and just to see how the offensive linemen look as well. Because again, you're looking to bolster O line again after all the injuries you suffered last season, and you could lose a guy or two here in the offseason during once we get to that period in a couple of weeks. So there's a lot to look out for, but for the Browns, I'm looking at D lineman today, and I'm looking at O line just to see what these young kids are doing and who we could kind of stack up with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely do agree that adding some more help, especially on the offensive line, is going to be key. I always think just having us get more depth on the D line isn't a bad thing either. It really just depends on what we end up doing come March 13th when the new year,
Mhm.
the new league year starts. Um, but honestly, for me, I'm looking a lot at this wide receiver and running back group again. Just because it's very, very deep, and there is zero reason why the Browns shouldn't look to continue adding depth, especially
Yeah.
when there is still that kind of uncertainty with Chubb, with Ford, even. I mean, Ford did okay, but I think if you put him in a different spot in this lineup, I feel like he could thrive a little bit better. Um, and I think they are going to look to obviously add, I think, both running back and wide receiver. It really just depends on what we don't get to in and the trades and free agency and all and all that stuff. And I just pulled up this article from the Dog Pound Daily, and I have to say most of these names I pretty much agree with. And the first guy that pops up is Blake Corum. If
Mhm.
that kid can somehow fall to us in round two, very much worth it. Xavier Worthy, junior wide receiver out of Texas. He's very, very fast, and he could be a
Yeah.
nice deep burner for us. Obviously, Roman Williams or Wilson, who is another former Wolverine, is another great guy. Not a not really a huge guy, but he's also very athletic and still can catch the ball, and that's what we need right now. And this guy is one of my favorites right now. If the Browns go after any sort of running back, Audric Estime from Notre
Yeah.
Dame is a behemoth of a man. This dude is like a mini Derrick Henry, just not as tall, but like 227 pounds. He is a boulder that you can just say, hey, run downhill and get us a few yards. And I think he could very well complement Chubb and sort of fill the Hunt role that Hunt has been playing for us for I would say the last 2 years now, where he has been more of that downhill, just like uh, you know, trying to get the dirty yards, those like 2 and 3, 4 yard carries. But I think this guy can be a lot better, and he's obviously a lot more fresh. I think that's honestly one of my favorite guys right now. And then obviously you have Jalen Polk from Washington, who is a wide receiver as well. He's 21 years old, but he's 6'2", 204. Dude is just built like a true wide receiver. And then, wow, this one, I don't know if this guy ever falls to us. I really don't. If he somehow does, he would make a great compliment to Chief, and that is Cade Stover. If that man falls to the Browns in round two or even round three, wherever, holy, that would be incredible for the Browns to get. Dude, I would love that. I didn't really think of that because honestly, I just don't think he's gonna fall out of the first round. I think the dude's just so good. But
Yeah.
as we know, these drafts go so weirdly that you never really know what the fall is gonna be like. I mean, sure, you can kind of predict the first like 5 picks, and after that, it gets wild. And that's the beauty of the draft every year is it just throws you for a fucking whirlwind every single time. So, guys like that are going to be great. I know I've seen a few more names. I don't know them by heart because I still haven't done enough studying. But there's some more wide receivers. I'm seeing them interview a lot with wideouts right now. So I don't know if that's just how they're kind of going down or not, but it sounds like the Browns want to add another wideout at some point, which makes sense. I mean, you really,
Absolutely.
after Coop and even more, like after that, you really don't have a lot of, you know, serious, consideration as to, hey, who's going to be my wide receiver 3 and 4 and 5. I mean, that's all kind of up in the air still. I mean, you have a lot of young guys, but they're still kind of unproven. You know, Tillman has a lot of upside, but had a rough year. Last year had a lot of issues with route running, which can very easily be, you know, corrected. But um, he still struggled, and
Mm,
and the Browns are smart enough to at least understand that, like, hey, you always have to have some sort of backup plan.
absolutely.
And then beyond that, I am going to say, especially if we get rid of Newsom, I will not be surprised if we draft another corner. AB is just notorious for drafting a corner, and knowing AB, it wouldn't shock me at all if that would end up being our first pick as another corner because because you can never have too many corners. I mean, that's what he
Yeah.
says, literally. And we don't necessarily need it, but I guess the more the merrier, especially if you do get rid of a Newsom, because you obviously have Ward and Martin, Emerson as the two guys, and they've pretty much proven themselves to be, CB 1 and 2. Obviously, Ward is who he is, but Emerson
Mhm.
has become one of the more dominant corners in the league. And then after that, you really have to find your true slot. And there's some guys there that can fill that void. Maybe you do that in free agency. However you do it, I definitely could see us doing that. And then in terms of just the defense itself, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we add another linebacker. Just because after I'd say the top four guys, uh, you really don't know who is gonna be really playing. At least playing consistently because we've had so many injuries on that specific side of the ball, and so that's probably another sort of position of need that I would say the Browns are going to go after.
Mhm.
Again, I don't know names right now. I am not a draft, combine expert. I'm not one of
Yeah.
those guys that's like a scout, expert. And I know plenty of guys, like that. And I try to listen to them as best as I can, but I'm not that guy. I don't have that time right now. But yeah, I love it, dude. I love this time of the year, and I'm really curious to see who else the Browns decide to interview with. But obviously, even so, it's just AB and them doing their due diligence, and it's just good to hear that they're kind of just interviewing whoever, whenever, because they can. Guys that are
Mhm.
clearly talented and are gonna be good in the league, and if they fall to him. Or if AB decides to trade up a little bit, he's gonna do what he's got to do to get the players that he wants, and I fully believe in that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you like 100%. AB is going to do AB things like, and this is a guy, we could definitely trust and to make the correct decisions and make the smart draft choices. And that's all he's done since he's been here is made smart draft choices. I mean, obviously there's a couple misses he's had, and it happens to every GM in the league. Every GM is going to have a couple misses here and there, and that's how the league runs. That's how the
Right.
league works. Um, but no, I think like you said best, these drafts are very unpredictable. There's things that we predict and they should be 100% guaranteed and are not. I keep telling people, everyone's like, "Oh, Caleb Williams #1 to Chicago." I was like, I doubt that happens, to be honest with you, because I think
Yeah.
Chicago continues to rock with Justin Fields because they have something there. They just need better coaching staff and some better pieces around him. Like, you could build around Justin Fields,
Yeah.
but can you really trust in Caleb Williams? Because how do you know Caleb Williams is not going to end up getting destroyed and stuff like that? We've seen these projects where everyone's like, oh, well, this quarterback didn't work out this place, but they didn't bolster like the offensive line, give them good receivers, a good back, and then they're like, well, we go another quarterback, and the same thing happens.
Right.
They continue to get decimated. And they're like, well, what are we doing wrong? We're drafting the best Q. Well, you got to build around the QB. You can't just get a QB and pray to God that he is a God sent from heaven and can do everything
Right.
perfectly. And that's not how that works. Because to be honest, I was never impressed with Caleb Williams at all this season.
No.
Not impressed at all. For me, he was awful. Like, you're supposed to be the #1 guy, and you go 7-5. don't make a bowl, barely make a bowl game, if they even made a bowl game, which I don't think they even did.
Well,
Like,
and he didn't even play in that bowl game.
and he didn't even play in the bowl game. So like, and you spent half the season crying and in tears, and it's like I'm not making fun of him for it because it means he's very passionate about the game, which I love. But I doubt Caleb Williams is the number one quarterback in the league. If someone does move up, it'd probably be like a team like Washington or something that could use a quarterback. So,
Yeah.
but back to the main point, I think there's chances AB could use Newsome as an option to maybe move up into a first round or something if he can.
Yeah.
Maybe send a couple of the late round picks that you have and maybe move up into a late first round pick. Um, dude, who knows? Like, this is a draft. Like, there's so much that could happen to where we could surprise a lot of people, and or AB stays where he's at, drafts guys that he trusts. You know, that's what the combine's about. You look at guys you can trust. I mean, we had
Right.
I think it was D lineman yesterday. Yeah, it was D line and linebackers yesterday. Today is D back or defensive backs, then tight ends. Then tomorrow it's a big important day. You have QBs, wide receivers, and running backs, and you have the O lines on Sunday.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on this weekend. Obviously, like you said, there's also pro days coming up too for a lot of these guys. So that's another chance to look at other people closely. But for at least for people like you and me, since we can't go to pro days and watch pro days,
Yeah.
we just stick here. We watch the combine on a day to day basis, just see how everything goes, and just make our choices. I mean, we looked at what the dog lane had to say. We liked the options that they gave. There's guys in there that I would love to have. I would love to have a Roman Wilson. I would love to have a Blake Corum. I would love to have a lot of these guys that were listed. So it's just pray to God they fall to the second round and you can snag them up. And or like I said, they might be good enough to where if they do go first round, AB might sneak up into that first round and grab them.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of options that we could see. And again, we have our favorite time of the year coming up in a couple weeks. So you could also get a bunch of guys in there too. I mean, we just saw today Alexander Madison was dropped by the Vikings. Devin Byard was dropped by the Eagles. So there's a safety option right there, and there's another backup running back option for you. So
Yeah.
you could even look at those guys as veterans to come in and shake up the lineup a little bit, and especially a safety position too. You can never have too many safeties and DBs. So there might be a backup safety in there, Byard. So the backup Juan Thornhill. So I mean, there's plenty of options too. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there is, and that's the beauty of it. Like that's why like it is really hard to tell like what each team is going to draft for unless they are a like
mhm.
bottom 5 team that are getting those top 5 picks, because obviously those top 5 picks are going to be a majority of these top players. Now
Mhm.
I do want to add something because you were taught because you had said about Caleb Williams. um the dude is clearly talented just as like a
Absolutely.
passer and just
Mhm.
as an athlete, but he does not seem like a very great leader. Like I don't know if his teammates have necessarily believed in him like a leader as they should. Because like as a quarterback, I mean that's supposed to be your captain. Like that's supposed to be the guy that you have to trust every time you step on that field, because he is the guy that can really control how the game could go. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, he's not the total factor, but I mean, if a quarterback plays bad, chances are your team is going to lose. And
Mhm.
it's not necessarily so that he played bad this year. I think their defense was terrible this year as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
USC just did not. They just were not as good of a team as they were previously. And it is what it is, but. I honestly think the top quarterback right now is a sort of a three-way tie between him, Derek May, and Jordan Daniels. Like I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those three guys
Mhm.
to whoever decides to pick them. And honestly, I think Jordan Daniels is the guy that people are really going to sleep on. Same with Penix Jr. Just guys like that, like they're going to do fine in this league.
Mhm.
I think some will need a little bit of time to stay back and make sure that they don't get thrown to the wolves. But like a guy like Caleb Williams is going to get thrown to the wolves, and he's going to struggle. He's going to have like a Trevor Lawrence first year type of of year, or like a Justin Fields first year type of year where he's gonna
Mhm.
get manhandled, especially if he goes to Chicago and Chicago doesn't clean up that offensive line and doesn't give him some more weapons. Caleb Williams is just going to be running around with his looking like a chicken with his head cut off, and I just don't know if I necessarily trust that yet. Like it seems like there's other teams that are a little more primed to be able to finally add that quarterback and be that, like, okay, this is gonna be the thing that really, like, you know puts us over. I mean, it's just like Houston for example. It only took a quarterback to have them go from a bottom tier team to a fucking playoff team that beat us,
Mhm.
and in a pretty damn tough team, and they're gonna get tougher. Um, so it would make sense to me, at least, for a guy like Jordan Daniels to be the one that is going to succeed the most as a rookie. Will he throw up the best numbers? I don't know, but the dude also was the one that won the Heisman this year, and I still think people are just sleeping on him and just not talking about him enough, and it's just wild to me. It really is. It's wild to me that there's so much focus
Mhm.
on Caleb Williams just because of the name and because of all of the shit that he has stirred around him and
Mhm.
himself. I mean, I was just reading that he basically uh, avoided getting any sort of medical examinations done
Mhm.
at that the combine, but also didn't let all 32 teams get that information because there's only one team that's going to draft me. Like, that level of cockiness and arrogance is what can potentially make you start to drop, because teams are going to be like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, is this guy really going to be the guy that we want, the face of our franchise to be
Yeah.
for the next 5 to 10 years? And I don't know, man. Like, especially if he doesn't interview well, that could
Mhm.
be a potential major red
If
flag. And there's going to be guys that are going to be way more just intuitive and intelligent and also empathetic with just people in general. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like the Browns do a really good job in terms of their sort of vetting process in that moment, of really finding just good high character guys. I think that's what they care about. There's some teams that like a lot more talent than character. Some teams, that's literally what they go for, is character over talent, because it will win 9 times out of 10 in the end of this league. Um, and you got even guys like freaking Harrison today that literally skipped his press conference. And yeah, I don't know if he's just not there, um, or if he's just not speaking. I don't know what it is, but you're starting to see a pattern of like the diva sort of vibe with some of these big time players. And don't get me wrong, Marvin Harrison is going to be the next Justin Jefferson, the next Jamar Chase. Like, he is going to be the next one up. He's talented as hell, but why? Like, why
Mhm.
are we putting up this facade or this like diva sort of mentality that we just don't need to do this stuff when everybody else is doing it and doing it just fine? Like, what are you
Yeah.
going to get asked about that is going to be so detrimental? Like, I don't know.
Well,
It just seems odd to me.
and that's the thing too. Like, I'm worried about him doing like interview if he does the interviews, because the way he's been acting, it sounds like all he wants to do is just do a quick pro day and just be done. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't want to do interviews. He doesn't want to do the combine. He doesn't want to do shit. He just wants to. He thinks he's the number one guy, and I think that's the big problem. Is he thinks he's the go to. He's the best. Like, and to be honest with you, I don't see him as the best, because looking at film and stuff like that, like, I think his field vision is horrendous. Like, he like as many good throws he's made, he's also made a lot of poor decision making
Yeah,
throws, and he throws a lot into double, triple coverage, and he forces the ball a lot.
he does. Yeah.
He he doesn't know how to get out of bad situations. He just takes sacks basically. Like, he's not an all timer like he thinks he is. Like, there's a reason why you didn't win a Heisman. Like, you're so overhyped. Like, you basically lost the Heisman to Marvin Harrison, a wide receiver, and a guy who was never named all season won the Heisman, and Jordan Daniels. Like,
Yeah.
it's so sad.
I
Like
have
you
a hot
actually,
take here in a minute, but go ahead and keep going. But I do have a hot take.
It's just wild to me, like how Caleb Williams thinks he's like the hottest shit. Won't do medicals, won't give out information to teams, and to be honest, I think this is a guy who, with all this stuff, he just continued. I think he drops down the draft board, and I'm talking like he doesn't draft like 2 or 3 spots. I'm talking like he drops to like the mid teens, or like he could drop down to like the 20s. Hell, he might fall out. Like there. This is my hot take. I think he could fall out completely in the first round. The
Yeah.
way the way he's been attituding, acting and stuff, because dude, it's almost like a Johnny Manziel type of situation where like he gets so like attitudey and he's like, I'm the fucking best, man. Like I do this. Like Johnny Manziel's interview the other day that he did, or was it like last week? You
Yeah,
know,
that's it.
he cared more about. He said he cared more about partying and stuff like that. Like he would be like, oh, at A&M, you know, I would drink on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wake up hungover, going to walkthroughs and stuff like that. Do the walkthroughs and and he's like, then you just go and play on Saturday, and it's like he's like, that's what worked for me. It's like, so basically being an borderline alcoholic is what worked for you, and
Yeah.
try to take that into the league. Don't watch film, think you're the best, and obviously Brian Hoyer then came out and said on the podcast that he basically just fucking hated Johnny because he thought he was the best, and we were doing well with Brian Hoyer. I think we were 7-3 with Brian Hoyer.
Six and
At
three at one point. Yeah.
6-3 at one point, and then we were in the playoff push. And then next thing you know, the
They threw him
organization,
in. Yep.
yeah, and Brian Hoyer said he's like the organization felt like they had to put in Johnny Manziel over me, and then we lost every game after.
Yep.
He,
Including getting our ass kicked to the Bengals at home after we decimated them on a Thursday night game with Brian Hoyer.
yeah. So
I remember that.
and Brian Hoyer was pissed, and yeah, every right to be because he was taking us to a playoff. I think, and that was my hot take too. Is like if we go back in time and if we let Brian Hoyer in as a starter, the Browns make the playoffs.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
I think
probably
we,
because there's no heat on him to like play to this like
yeah,
certain expectation. It's just like, oh, this guy's just doing his job and playing well.
yeah. No, they basically just took him out for no reason because the organization felt like they had to put in Johnny Manziel, and then Johnny Manziel was gone out, basically out of the league, literally after that season.
Yeah. Yeah, my hot take is kind of related to this specific conversation, but I think Caleb Williams is going to be the next Johnny Manziel. Like
Yeah.
I think he's going to be the bust. Like I just feel like he's so fragile mentally that
Hmm.
anytime things are going to start going bad, he's going to either start putting the blame on other people, on other people, or he's just going to shut down entirely. And when that
And become
happens,
Ryan Leaf.
yeah, and then you're just going to be I mean, he's going to be out of the league within the first like 6 years or less
I would say sooner.
if he indeed keeps up this. Now, can he turn it around and just have his focus strictly on football? Yes, absolutely. The kid is still a kid, but man, you have got to quit this diva act. You got to quit like you were the hottest shit ever to walk the face of
it's
earth.
it's gonna smack him in the face when he realizes this isn't college and you can just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the league's gonna smack you in the face, or if someone like you go up against like a Miles Garrett, and he's gonna pound you to the fucking ground 6 times in the game, and you're gonna be like, oh shit, this is so different than college, and it's like it's so much faster, so much harder, and you're gonna be hearing plays that are 12 pages long, and you're gonna be like, I don't know what the coach just said, but we're just gonna run this, I guess, and then I'm
Yeah.
just gonna. So it's gonna be like I agree. It's gonna be like a Johnny Manziel where he doesn't read the tape, he doesn't watch the tapes, he doesn't look at the playbook. He's just gonna be like, well, I'm Caleb fucking Williams, dog. Like I don't need to do this shit. And
Yeah.
there's gonna be another Jamarcus Russell, another Ryan Leaf, another Johnny Manziel. They're gonna be out of the league within 2 years of their starting, or 3 years, and
Yeah.
they're like, well, what happened? I was the best of the best, and now I just came into the league and I sucked ass. And I was like, it's
Right.
like, well, because you didn't take it seriously. You thought
Yeah.
you were the hottest shit in the world, and you didn't take it seriously. And then Daniels is gonna be like Josh Allen, who was severely underrated, and now is one of the best QBs in the fucking league.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's how these stories tend to go. And
Yeah,
I hope for his sake that doesn't happen. But my gosh, and you know what? If he does drop in the draft, dude, you know how much money he's
he
losing
loses
automatically. Like he
Yeah.
like eat like
Tens of millions,
tens of millions, man. Like
tens of millions.
it's insane how much money that they lose out. Even there's such a huge difference between pick one and then pick three and then pick five, and then after that it just continues to go down.
And the thing is, too,
So
like we saw what happened with Baker Mayfield here. Again,
yeah,
a guy came in with a more cocky attitude, was out of the organization within 3 years, 4 years. And I mean, to not to his own fault, because he was starting to pick it up and starting to realize, like, oh shit, I can't be this guy I was in college and
right,
be a douchebag and you know go on this like I'm better than everybody and stuff
yeah,
like that and go on tyrants and shit. And then next thing you know, he's out of the Browns organization within the first 4 years of his career. Again, not to the fault of his own. At the end of his, he was coming around and playing well. And then next thing you know, he's off to three different teams within a year.
yeah,
And it's like, that's what happens in the league, buddy. If you can't
yeah.
contain yourself and control yourself, you're gone, and now you're bouncing from team to team, or you're just out of the league completely. Baker
And the
Mayfield got lucky; he got saved by a couple teams. He got
yeah
saved
the
by the Rams. He got saved by Tampa Bay. Like,
yeah yeah the league is totally unforgiving,
yeah,
and
the
that is
Panthers too.
the reality of it. And yeah, I mean, you really got to keep your head on straight because this league, it's so, dude, mistakes are so minimal. Like if you
Mm,
are a guy that can't minimize mistakes, you are not gonna play. Like you are not, like they're just not gonna deal with it. It's only gonna be
no,
so long before they're like, dude, it's either now or never. You got to get it together. And unfortunately, Caleb Williams played a lot like Manziel. Like the way that he played was just very like open and free and just like
mm-hmm.
wanting to run around and just play NFL street too. Like that's his like attitude to it. And
Yeah,
I think the weirdest part too was when USC went to their bowl game and then Caleb Williams obviously decided to not play. Whoever it was that played behind him, they ended up winning that game. And I remember specifically at the end of that game, there were players saying like, "Hey, we're finally a team again." Like we're finally a team again. And I was like, "Yo, like was Caleb really that toxic?" And it looks like it could very well have been that way. And it is just sad. It's sad that the media hypes up these kids so much that it ends up ruining their own careers because they get too big of an ego, and they just become an airhead. And then you got guys who, even like Derek May, who honestly, without freaking Caleb Williams, he would be probably the top first pick
yeah.
between him and Jordan Daniels. I mean, those two are some of the best quarterbacks in this draft.
It
And
was it was Miller Moss too who came
yeah,
in for um
Caleb, yeah,
Caleb Williams, and he threw 6 touchdowns, one pick
yeah.
on 23 of 33 for 374 yards.
Yeah, like the kid balled out. And Caleb Williams, yeah, sure. I mean, he has the potential to do that, and I know he did that like at least once or twice this past year. But dude, you weren't winning games, and that's
No,
the reality. Like you went for being a like top like 5 to top 10 team to completely unranked at the end of the year because of
yeah,
how many games you lost, and you were losing to teams that weren't even like super crazy good. Like they were better than you, but I mean, the reality of it is, if you're going to be a top five team, you got to beat top five teams as well, and you got to face good teams and play them and beat them
you know it's crazy
significantly.
too. I'm looking at it right now. Um, it's funny looking at the last results for Caleb Williams versus Miller Moss. The last 5 games for Caleb Williams, he went 1-4, only beating Cal by a point. And then you look at Miller Moss, 4-0, including the holiday, which includes the Holiday Bowl. So 3-0 in the regular season, 4-0 if you count the Holiday Bowl. He had an average QBR of 97. He threw his 2023 season stats were 7 touchdowns, one pick, which was the only pick was in the Holiday Bowl.
Right.
97.3 QBR, 680 yards total, compared to Caleb Williams, who had an 82.4 QBR, and he threw in that time span. He threw one pick, but he had no more than like barely 300 yards in like a couple of these games, and he went 1-4.
Right.
Caleb Williams, horrible. He lost to UCLA. He lost to number 6 Oregon. He lost to number 5 Washington. Lost to number 14 Utah. The only team he beat was Cal. Again, he beat Cal by a point.
Right.
Miller Moss comes out, beats 15 Louisville. And I mean, some of the games like Caleb Williams decided not to play in that Miller Moss did play in, like, yeah, Moss beat Stanford, but beat him by 46.
Right.
Beat Nevada by almost 52. Beat Nevada by 52.
Yeah.
Beat San Jose State by 30, like 33 or whatever, or 38 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he beats Louisville by 20. All while having like the best QBR. Like, to be honest, it seems like Miller Moss is better than Caleb Williams.
Yeah. You are
because this kid went 4-0 in four games, and Caleb Williams in his last 5, 1-5, which means in the entirety of the season, yeah, Caleb Williams had almost 4,000 passing yards. He had 35 touchdowns, 8 picks, or 5 picks, excuse me. He threw an 82 QBR, went 1-4. And then you have a young kid goes 4 or 1-5, and the Miller Moss goes fucking 4-0.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's beyond wild.
It's wild, and that's the exact point that I'm saying. Is like it's absolutely wild that a kid that has had this much hype and just been as high as any quarterback before the draft has ever been. I mean, I'm really not sure there's been any more hype behind anybody like this in a long time. I mean, the only ones that I can think of are guys like Joey Burrow. Manziel obviously had plenty of media coverage, but everybody knew that he was still kind of full of it, and the real gurus knew that, like, hey, this kid is not, he's talented, but he doesn't care. And
yeah,
it's sad because it takes away from really good players that genuinely give a shit about the game, that really want to be great and join a team and just make a name for themselves. And Caleb Williams is just he's too cocky to
yeah.
Especially when he's trying to ask for like ownership of like the team that drafts him and stuff. Like hearing stuff like that is like, bro, you are wild. You haven't even stepped on an NFL team yet. You haven't even touched an NFL field. Why are you asking for such egregious things?
Yeah, I would go into FanDuel and put like his first like ever like, what's he gonna do first? Throw a touchdown or a pick? I'm gonna put pick like immediately, because I think his first game he's throwing like 3-4 picks, and then he's gonna hit him like, damn, I am ass, dude. Like,
it's gonna be rough. And it's gonna be a rough time for him.
And that's the thing too, like we said, dude, like Johnny, like it takes away from guys who do care when personalities like Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel, Caleb Williams are there, because like, and this is the one thing I do hate about the media, is that they put the attention on the wrong people, because yeah, it's better for TV and shit like that, but it's like the guys who do deserve it, like Daniels and Penix Jr. and like all these other guys, Drake May, those are the guys who deserve the media coverage. Those are the guys who deserve to be talked about all the time.
Yeah.
Forget Caleb Williams, forget Johnny Manziel. Yeah, they're high personality people, but they're not good at football. Oh. They're so bad. They come out of the league and they're gone within a couple years. Like, and it's like, oh man, like and they're still gonna be talking about them for years to come, because they're like, well, what could have been? I mean, there's still times where people talk about Jamarcus Russell and Ryan Leaf every once in a while, and it's like, when are you gonna stop giving these guys coverage?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? They're deadbeats now. They're out of the league. They're gone. Like, stop talking about them. Let them live their life, because guess what? They realized they were bad. They made mistakes. And, I mean, I feel like Johnny Manziel is like one of the only guys who doesn't really regret anything he's done, because he still does what he does to this day. Like, he's still drunk. He's still a party drunk and, trying to live life like it's a freaking party. And his parents are pissed about it. Like, he basically just wasted his life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they continue to give him the media coverage and continue to give him like I get it. Caleb Williams is a big personality, but let's focus our attention on other people who deserve to be highlighted. You know, we can't just keep looking at these phonies who think they're the hottest shit since sliced bread. Like these guys are not good. Like I can't wait for a team to draft Caleb Williams so early just for them to regret it like years down the road and spend all this money on a dunce who doesn't want to play, basically just doesn't want to play football.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, but Caleb Williams is not going to be good, and I don't even know if that's a hot take anymore.
No, no, I don't think it is either. I mean, but there's still plenty of people in the media that are very high on him. They know how truly talented of an arm he has, but it only gets you so far. And at the end of the day, like real people that like actually watch the games and understand how this stuff works, like you need a lot more than arm talent to get through this league, and that is the bottom line. And if you don't agree with it, fine, but that's the reality of this game. It's continuing to evolve. It's not, the early 2000s where you get a guy like Brett Favre who's just like, hey, just go up and chuck one. Someone will be there. It's not like that because everybody's fast, everybody's strong, and everybody's
Mm-hmm.
talented. Like I said, the ability to minimize mistakes is the most important thing in this league. And if you can't get behind that and you continue to throw picks, guys like Baker had that issue. I mean, he it's not that he wasn't a solid, quarterback. It was fuck, man. Like you were throwing two or three picks away because you were throwing it into triple coverage, trying to force a ball to somebody that wasn't open. It's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna work. Like this is not college ball. You can't get away with that stuff. Guys are good. They are the best of the best, and there's the reason that they're in that league is because they are the best of the best.
Yeah.
So you can't you just can't be an idiot, in this league, and that's the bottom line. But before we move on to Cavs talk, I do want to also mention the Browns also restructured Ward, which is big
Yep.
for us in terms of March 13th. Being able to create a little more cap is gonna be able to help us do a little more room. And honestly, I don't think Barry is done. I think the way he spoke at the combine this week, I definitely don't think he's done. I think there's more down the line. I think guys like a Watson aren't going to get restructured until later on. Like I mean, like closer to like the beginning of the season, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But still, guys like Chubb, guys like Garrett, um, Conklin, even those guys could easily get restructured, and just to try to figure out uh, what else we needed to do, and then after that we'll see what he does, come March 13th. But I was excited about that, and I'm glad that he did it pretty fast, to be honest, because Ward was not really the first one that I thought was going to get done, but I was very like happy that he was the first one done because I thought he was going to be the hardest one to get through.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I like you said, I thought War was gonna be kind of like the harder one to get through, but I'm glad it's done and dusted. Like day one, he basically said he was doing this stuff. So, um, but it's what Adrian Berry does, and I think being able to get Denzel done so fast, I think that's a testament that everyone trusts in the organization, even the players. They trust in Andrew Berry, and they have his like full like, listen, I know you could do great with this money that we're giving back to you and stuff like that. Like I know you're gonna get us guys that can win
Yeah,
and want to win. So I think Andrew Berry's gonna have no problem restructuring all these deals because they trust in him. Everybody
yeah,
in the organization trusts in AB. They trust in Stefanski. Like, and this is what makes a great organization. This is why the Patriots were so good for so many years. Is that they trusted the organization, the players trusted the coaching staff, they trusted the GM, the owners, and they said, "Look, we're gonna restructure some of you guys so we can get good players in here. We're gonna win Super Bowls," and that's what the Patriots did for 20 years.
yeah,
And now the Browns are trying to do the same thing. They're like, "Hey, Denzel, we're gonna restructure you a little bit. It's not nothing on you. We're just gonna restructure you a little bit, get some of this money, And like you said, Andrew Berry said he's gonna do it to players like Watson, Garrett, Conklin. You're gonna see a lot of restructures so that way you can bring in guys who want to win football games. And the cap being what it was when we got it, I mean, we got more than what we thought, and
yeah.
that helps out a ton. The Browns are still top of the league in cap, so everyone's like, "Oh, the Browns are gonna be out of money. They're gonna be broke as hell and stuff like."
Right.
Nope.
Trust in AB always.
Trust in AB. He knows that man went to Harvard, man. He knows how to handle the money. That's
Yeah,
for damn
yeah,
sure. He
yeah.
knows what
He
he's
is
doing with his money.
exactly like that. That's why I had all of the all of the confidence in the world. And when I heard that cap news, I was like, hell yeah! Like this is gonna make a huge a
Absolutely.
difference. But the funny part is, AB said recently even that that was about where he thought the cap was going to land. And anyway, so they knew that it was going up. And I think a lot of GMs knew that it would go up, but some knew more than others. And clearly AB did. So that's good that we have
He's
him
just
on our
so
side, man.
he's so intelligent, man. It's
He
so good to
is.
have him.
He is. He is. He's so smart, and that's why I'm really excited to see if he finally starts to get a little aggressive here, because I think that is
Hmm.
one thing we have not really seen just yet. But now that we have the wins to sort of back it up and say, hey, this team is built for something special, we just need a few more things, like let's ride, let's go, and
And
and that's gonna make the difference.
and to be honest, dude, I don't know about you, but I'm still thinking John Dorsey because I think he
Yeah,
paved the way for Andrew Barry because John
yeah.
Dorsey was a god sent from heaven too when he was here.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because he took the top off the lid instantly, and just
Yeah.
decided to just
He
flip the league on its side
well he
and do
John
his
Dorsey
thing.
was the one John Dorsey was the one who got rid of all the cancers in the locker room.
Yeah,
I said like I'm not dealing with this. Him and Greg Williams both said like, listen, we're getting rid of all the cancers in the locker room. We're dumping them out. We're putting in positive people in here. Then when they left, Adrian Barry came in and said, look, I'm just gonna add some good old fashioned positivity in this group. I'm gonna add some people who want to win in this group, and next thing you know, the Browns within a few years are an organization to deal with, and now everyone can't make fun of the Browns because we're actually a competent organization now. We're not back in 2014, 15, 16.
yeah,
We're
um,
once John Dorsey came in, like you said, the lid popped off, and that's what they started going the way we wanted it to go. And I always tell people I would always thank John Dorsey, even though he was only here for what 2 or 3 years.
yeah,
Like he got rid of all the people we need to get rid of. Didn't take shit from nobody. Drafted players that we still use to this day, and he helped us change the script. And then when he left some goodies for Andrew Barry, and Andrew Barry just did what he does best and just took over.
yeah, yeah. And I mean that it is true. I mean, and obviously Dorsey wasn't perfect, but
No,
yeah, he really started to pave the way for like just the culture itself.
yeah,
And just said like enough is enough with this like winning
losing mentality.
2 to 3 games a year. Like we're not doing that
Well,
anymore. We're gonna be a competent team again. And now we're in a spot where now we could just be a good team consistently every year.
he didn't. He came from, I believe, was in the Green Bay,
Yeah, it was Green Bay.
and I forget how long he was there for.
It was a long
Um,
time.
it
It
was
was a few
it was.
years.
I'm looking at it now. He was with Green Bay from, I mean, if you want to say it, he was with Green Bay from as an executive from 91 to 96, as a scout from 97 to 98, and then as a director of personnel from 2000 to 2011, and then was football of operations in 2012. Then he went to Kansas City as a GM from 13 to 17
Yeah,
before being the Browns GM in 2017 to 2019.
yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
And then he spent 2020 with the Eagles, and then
Now
as
he's
of
with
right,
Detroit.
yeah, as of right now, he's a senior executive at Detroit.
And Detroit's a good team too, but also I don't think he has nearly as much power. I think he's just a solid scouter and just like is
And
a
that's the
good
thing.
person to have in your ear.
He started as a scout in Green Bay after he played for Green Bay for a couple of years,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
he has a knack for talent.
yeah, well, yeah, he does for sure.
But dude, I'm excited for football season, man, because I'm
Me
excited to see
too.
what we can do. And before we change topics, dude, it was so nice to see Dewan Jones jumping up and down after the
Yeah.
Struce. Like, it tells me that that boy's healthy, and I'm excited for him to come back.
Yeah, well, and I'm hearing too. It sounds like Watson's going to be throwing here next month, so probably in April sometime. So that's good news to hear as well. Because if he is starting to throw by April, you think he is going to be ready by the start of the season, hands down.
Yeah.
So that's great.
The boys are
Great
looking
news.
healthy.
Yeah. So I mean, the only news that we really need
It's
left is
Chubb.
we need a Chubb update, like for real. Like
I just
I
need
want to see a Instagram, video of him him squatting 600 again. Give it to
That's
me.
what I'm saying. That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like I need
Give
a
it to me.
IG or a Twitter reel of him squatting like 700 again. Like, oh yeah, the dude's feeling great.
Yeah.
Like then I'll be like, oh, we're ready.
Yeah.
I need football season to back like tonight.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, did kind of mention the Cavs here. A little bit of up and down right now for them. It just sounds like
Hmm.
they're just in a weird funk right now, which is going to happen. Especially after the break, guys are
Hmm.
going to be a little out of touch. But yeah, up and down. They obviously had a really fun win. Against Dallas with the stress ending, which was really really fun to watch. That was really cool to see them pull that out. They took care of business against the Wizards, but they have lost, I think, what, 3 out of the last 5 games, I believe now,
Yeah,
including the double overtime loss. What was it, yesterday or the day? Or
it
sorry, no,
was
the day before.
Wednesday. Yeah.
It was Wednesday. Um, Guys played a lot of minutes that game, and now we are dealing with guys with, some injuries. So Donovan Mitchell right now has some knee soreness. He is questionable tonight. Levert also questionable with an elbow that he apparently sustained in that game as well. And I understand that it was a double overtime game, but the minutes were very, very heavy, and I'm worried that JB is going back to his old ways of playing his starters for way too long than you
Hmm.
need to, and not keeping them fresh for those fourth quarter, moments. And I'm just curious as to your thoughts. I don't know how much you've watched the games, but what are your thoughts on, whether or not you think JB is starting to go back to his old ways, and are you worried about it?
Yeah, I've been keeping up as much as I can. Obviously, I try. Usually, I just put on the game like on my phone or like on my computer, and just
Yeah.
while I'm just kind of hanging around doing stuff around the house. Um, yeah, no, I think he's definitely going back to some of his older ways. The last time we've seen Sam Merrill touch the floor, I think it was against Philadelphia, or it was against yeah, Philadelphia, and it's not it's not good when guys like Sam Merrill are not touching the floor. You know, players like Niang are only getting like 12, 13 minutes a game now. Like these are guys who make differences for the team.
Yeah.
Like Niang is a guy who can go off at any moment, just put up buckets. Same with Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill could just go off for like 6 threes, 7 threes, and just go crazy.
Yeah.
I think the problem is with AB or JB is the fact that when he does get down in games, he tends to not make changes.
Yeah.
He tends to stick with, especially if it's like leads. Because I noticed this when I went to go watch him play the Magic last Thursday, was the fact that when we were down by 12, everyone stayed in. We got back level with Orlando, and then he just didn't make any changes when Orlando took a timeout when they drew level, and they made a couple changes, and we just kept the same guys out there. And then we got beat to hell again. We were back down by 10. And you could tell the guys were gassed, they were tired, and it's like JB make some moves, like put some bench guys out there. Like this is why you're losing games is because you keep leaving the same guys out there. They're tired when they need to change, and a little bit of like a 2 minute rest, and you're keeping them out there, and they're getting cooked because they're now having a hard time playing defense because they're so exhausted. And then it causes fouls to happen on shots. It causes just turnovers. Like again, when I went to go watch the Magic, Garland had a few turnovers, but you could tell it's because he was tired, exhausted, trying to make things happen. And to be honest, I don't blame Garland's games as of late on himself. I blame it more on JB
Yeah.
because I think he's playing so much that it's hard for him to get back into the rhythm of things when you're playing 40 minutes a night
Yeah.
and you're gassed to hell and you're trying to make things, you and Donovan are trying to make things happen. You guys just can't because then it causes turnovers, bad passes. Garland's trying to do his job to get into the paint. The ball gets picked off. And it's one of those things where JB's got to be like, shit, man. Like, once we draw the game close, I need to get a timeout, get these guys off the floor, get some of these bench because you could trust Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert, usually when you put him in for 20 minutes, he drops like 15.
Well,
Niang is a guy who is another guy off the bench who could drop 15 off the bench when you need him to. The thing is, you gotta put faith in these guys. Again, Sam Merrill could give you a couple threes off
yeah.
the bench.
Hasn't played since what, the 23rd you said earlier?
Yeah, the 23rd.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things. It's like, again, these are guys you have to have faith coming off the bench to when you cut the lead down to like 3 or 4 that you can put in to continue to cut down the lead or get the lead back.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, in those wins that we had, they kind of did that.
Yeah.
And on the winning streak, you saw that a lot during the winning streaks. The 2 8-game streaks we had where when the Cavs were down by a couple, they put in the bench players and the bench players brought us back. And then you put the starters in, and the starters went out and said, okay, now we're up by 15. And so it's like, okay, now it's like, you can't lose faith in that. No. And I get it. Like tonight, you could probably lay off on the starters tonight and trust your bench a little bit more because you're playing Detroit tonight as we're recording this now.
Yeah.
This is the 1st of March. So they're going to be playing Detroit tonight. So again, it's a team where you really don't need Mitchell and LeVert, but again, this is a game where you put in your Niangs and your Sam Merrills and you allow them to go off and you don't need to play Garland for 45 minutes.
Right.
So I'm hoping JB learns that because the next couple games after Detroit, you have the Knicks and the Celtics on the 3rd and the 5th. So you have back-to-back difficult games. And also, the Milwaukee Bucks caught up with you again. Because now you're tied for the Central. You're tied for second place in the Eastern Conference. So with those couple losses, they're on a 4-game winner right now.
Yeah.
You're on a 2-game burner. So JB's got to figure it out, man, because you've allowed Milwaukee to come back when you're up by like 4 on them.
Yeah.
So he's got to figure it out. He's got to stop panicking at the wrong moments and just allow his guys to do their job. And just needs to trust the bench more often.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why he always has this issue with having to trust his bench guys, especially when guys, I mean, Struss, after that win, he literally said that this is literally one of the deepest teams, or even I think it was Niang that said that this is the deepest team that he's been on, and like,
yeah,
trust it, like play 10 guys a night, you can do that, and you will win because you're gonna have fresh guys. And everybody is going to be able to at least compete and help you. Like, you should literally have 2 starting 5s every single time. And then guys being able to just rotate.
Niang's absolutely right. This is this is probably the deepest team in the league. And really JB doesn't want to trust it. It's sad.
It pisses me off, man. It's why I had a problem with him, earlier on in the year. And if he starts going back to his old ways, man, it's gonna go down south. And it's going to go from us being a top 2 team in the East to, to being a top 5 team in the East. And that's a major difference. I mean, that's a major difference in who you're playing and, the type of matchup that you have, especially for the playoffs, because the playoffs are about a month away, I think. So you don't have long to start messing around and fuck everything up and start getting guys hurt or guys that are going to start dealing with nagging injuries because it's getting later on in the year. And you got to understand that and try to keep your main guys healthy. I just I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I never will. It makes no sense why we can't have a 9 or 10 man rotation with this team at this point. Like you might as well, just to keep your guys fresh for the big picture, which is the playoffs, which you should be guaranteed in as long as you don't mess it up. Yeah. So don't mess it up. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, no, and that's all it comes down to. I mean, just looking, I went to double OT, but like, in double OT, Mobley playing 42 minutes, Garland and Mitchell playing 44, Struss playing 38, Allen playing 35, and then, you look at the bench, Dean Wade's got 14 minutes, Niang's got 11, Okoro's got 20, and then LeVert's the only one who had 40 minutes off the bench. But, again, like, I know a lot of people give shit for Dean Wade and stuff, but Dean Wade is great defensively. I think he had 3 blocks against Chicago. Yeah. And at times, he can shoot the ball really well, too.
Yeah.
So, again, it's that trusting the guys. And, Sam Merrill didn't touch the floor. Okoro got you 13. Okoro is starting to look alive on the offensive side of the ball, which is actually what you've been wanting him to do lately. But again, like you're not putting trust in Niang, getting 10 minutes. And the most he could do is drop 2 points in 10 minutes because he's not getting enough time. And you're overplaying. And this is why there's no Mitchell, probably going to be no Mitchell and no LeVert tonight because you played him for 40 plus minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, but the other bench guys are getting 10.
Yeah.
Like that's not good when 3 bench guys are getting 10 minutes and 1 bench guy's getting 40 and the rest of your starters are all 40 plus and double overtime.
Yeah.
You're gassed. That's why you lost. You're gassed. You're tired.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense. Like stop doing this. Like again, you got a nice rest night tonight. You played Detroit. It should be a walk. But I mean, it's just one of those things, man, where tonight you just go back and forth with your starters and bench. And then you got to play the Knicks on Sunday. And then on Tuesday, you have to play the Celtics. You have 2 very difficult Eastern Conference matchups coming up, and you cannot panic because I think both are away. Or no, both are at home, and both are primetime games.
Yeah.
Knicks are on ESPN, Celtics are on TNT. These are primetime games, baby.
Yeah.
You can't choke in primetime.
No, you can't.
At home.
You just can't. Flat out, you can't.
I kind of want to go to these games too.
Man, I would love to. But I can't. Oh man. All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all we wanted to talk about today because there's not really too much going on in spring training right now. It's still pretty early, so I don't really want to talk too much about that. But next week, I think we are going to talk a little bit about just the upcoming New Year League thing that's going to go on. Obviously, with trades, free agency, all that stuff. Post combine, obviously the Cavs. So we're still gonna have a lot to talk about. So, Andrew, you got anything else before we log off today?
Yeah, no, like I said, next week is gonna be basically end of combine talks, and we get 1 week closer to the fun zone, and then I think we could hold off on Guardians talk until the week after because at that point, let's see, let me look at a little calendar here because once after next week, you get to like the 15th or whatever, the league starts, MLB season starts on like the 28th or something. Yeah. So you start getting towards like the end of spring training. You're like in the mix of spring training. You're in the middle of it. You start getting towards the end of spring training. So I think that's a better time to start talking about because now you have kind of like an idea of like what kind of guys we have and what kind of guys are going to be in the rotation and lineup. So it's more we don't want to. It's not like we don't want to talk about the Guardians. It's just so early right now. We don't know what guys. We still have to get in looks of what guys we have, and so if you don't hear any Guardians talks from us, we want to save it for either the week of or basically the week before the season begins, because again, you'll have a sense of who's going to be with the squad and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think leaving it to the 15th or even the 22nd or something like. A week or two before the season, you start getting more into the middle of the end of spring training. You figure out who's going to be here and who's going to go back down to,
right,
AAA, AA, and shit like that. So
all that stuff. Yeah. We got plenty to talk about for next week. I'm really excited because obviously this is my favorite time of the year. So yeah, guys, we will see you guys next week with some more NFL talk.